Hey, what's going on, BCS Army? Justin from Blue Collar Survival, and it's time for another review. I would like to thank JR Rodriguez first for loaning me this knife from the Sharp Spot. He has a great channel and a great group. I have a link in the description down below, and check out the other channels I have down there. A lot of great channels to check out. Also, if you're looking for that best bang for your buck in the budget knife and gear world and you're new to my channel, hit the subscribe button down below. While you're at it, throw me a thumbs up. Alright guys, so today I'll be doing the Spyderco Centofante III. It is, I would consider it a gentleman's folder. It was designed by the late great Frank Centofante, who was huge in the knife world, and he was the president of the Knife Guild for a while, but he worked with Spyderco, and he worked with the Spyderco manufacturing team for many years. He taught them how to recognize and appreciate and build quality knives. His biggest piece of advice he left with them was, if you can't see the difference, you can't build the difference. And I feel since his passing, maybe some of this has slipped a little bit on Spyderco. I know some of you out there have had some misses and some quality issues with Spyderco, but that's any knife company. But yeah, so I don't need to tell you about Frank Centofante. If you're into the knife world, you know all about him. So I'll go ahead and get some size comparisons with this real quick. So we'll start out with the Benchmade Bug Out, the Ontario Rat 2, and another Spyderco. We'll do the Paramilitary 2. So you can see it's not a whole heck of a lot smaller. I mean, way narrower. All right. So it's got a nice hollow grind blade, very thin. I believe, what is it? I measured it at 0.075 inches or 1.9 millimeters, so a very thin blade, and it's only 0.015 inches behind the edge or 0.381 millimeters. So very thin behind the edge. And what I mean from behind the edge, I was talking with Super Steel Steve and a couple other guys, is this is one that people get a misconception of, is behind the edge measuring. And I had to ask for myself to make sure I was actually going to be correct. But behind the edge is not behind the apex of the blade, like down at the very tip of the bevel. The behind the edge is literally, I wish this thing would just focus real quick, is literally right above the bevel, where the bevel meets the blade. That's where you're behind the edge, and this is very thin, so it's a very nice slicer, has a good working edge. And actually Gerald from Outpost 76 had tested it, and he said that the VG10 on this knife actually outperformed most imported Chinese steels. So there you go. I mean, VG10 doesn't get a whole lot of love in the knife world. It's not a bad steel. I'll actually throw the specs up on the screen for you guys to check out real quick. But yeah, VG10 is not a bad steel. And after I throw the specs up, I'll go ahead and throw up the edge retention chart. So as you can see here, it kind of falls right about in the middle. I gave it a little higher grade on my scoring system, just due to Gerald's testing to prove how well it was done. And VG10 is also an extremely corrosion resistant steel. They use it in a lot of chef knives and stuff like that. And I'll put the corrosion chart up here. All right, so you got a 3 1/8 inch blade, 4.5 inch handle. FRN, it has a Palladium Spyderco logo, which Palladium is in the Platinum family. It is the softest and has the lowest melting temperature of all the metals that are in the Platinum family. You can also find Palladium in catalytic converters along with Platinum. So nice little touch on them. Sharpening the VG10. VG10 is just a snap to sharpen. This stuff loves to be sharp, and it's super easy to sharpen. It's easy to put a hair splitting edge on it. So yeah, it's absolutely a nice gentleman's carry. Score wise, I will throw the scores up real quick instead of going over them one by one. I feel like that's kind of dragging my reviews a little long. You guys can kind of get the gist of it. So a few things that I really like about this knife is I do like the most of the blade profile. I like that hollow grind, and where you get this swedge at the tip here, with that little crease in the metal, it actually adds a little integrity to the strength of your tip, because this is a very fine blade. I mean, here, the Ontario Rat 2 is not a thick blade either, and you can see that it's got a little bit thicker blade stock, and then we'll compare it to one that definitely has thicker blade stock. Here's your Paramilitary 2 compared to that. So very thin, nice, slicey. Like I said, it's a gentleman's carry for sure. Rides really good in the pocket. I did knock it just a tiny bit on the scoring with that, just because just that little bit sticks out, but it rides in the pocket really nice. It's very light at only 2.5 ounces. But there was a few things I really didn't like about this, and I think the main thing I did not like about this was the price. You're asking $74 for FRN handles, VG10 steel, and a full riveted knife. So if anything ever happens with your pivot or anything like that, I mean, I suppose you could send it back to Spyderco, but you know all of us love to work on our own knives and maintenance. You can do nothing. It's full rivets all the way around. And as you can see on this, one of the little bushings, I guess you'd call it, around the pivot has already fallen off of JR's knife. So fit and finish, I wouldn't say super great. I actually knocked it on that a little bit. Plus, I'm just not a fan of not being able to adjust my pivots. Lockup is really good. It's solid. No blade play really at all. Up and down is very, very light. The thing I don't like about this blade really is this point right here. It's not bad if I'm back here, but I kind of feel unnatural because I want to be up here more. So that point kind of throws me off. I think if I owned it personally, I would probably grind that. So that kind of gets me a little bit right there, kind of as a hot spot for me, like I said, personally. As you can see, my medium-sized hands, you still got some left in the handle, so even if you got a larger hand, you can handle it. It is tip up or down, right side only. Let's see. Function-wise, this thing right here, it does let's see if I can get the camera good with this. I'll go across the grain. Some people are like, well, you go with the grain, it makes it easier, so we'll go across the grain. I mean, this thing is super slicey through this cardboard. In the words of my coworker, for me, this is no problem. So definitely a nice little going through cardboard. Cuts really well. Gerald said when he did his, it stropped extremely well right back to nice and sharp. So VG10 is a nice steel. I don't know why it gets so much hate in the knife world, but I am going to hate on them $174 for a knife like this. It is a nice gentleman's carry. It looks really nice. I like the little milling here on the handle. You know, the grip isn't bad on it just because of the ergonomics of the handle. But overall, let's see, I gave it a 25.8 overall, which is a 2.86 on my overall out of 4. So this one actually rated as one of my lower knives. It's no Kaiser Cane by any means, but it did rate a little lower. So this is one of the knives that I would say falls in the meh category. You know, it's all personal preference, honestly, but for me, this is kind of a meh knife. Unless I found one heck of a deal, I probably wouldn't jump on this. All right, guys, I think I pretty much hit over top everything. So this is Justin from Blue Collar Survival. You guys stay safe.